Hello everyone, welcome to Test Analysis at Tutela. And here we're going to talk about the August SAT 2025 attempt. It is well talked. There are so many things people have observed. Students said English was typically hard. So we have got the time to go over multiple versions. And here is what we think. So I'm going to start with English. Yes, English, I wouldn't call it particularly easy, as probably you have seen in June or May tests. What made it sort of hard and what made it perceived as hard? So I'm going to talk about vocabulary first. In vocabulary, particularly, words weren't actually hard or difficult per se, but they could have been confusing because they sounded similar or looked very similar in the context. So that could have thrown some kids who didn't have a very distinct idea. Next comes, which is true of what the students have observed, is lengthy reading answer choices, which is right. We see that in two particular question types, which is command of evidence textual and logical completion. We saw lengthy answer choices for the English section, somewhere both in module 1 and module 2. So yes, if you're somebody who hate long reading choices, it could have thrown you off. They weren't really difficult again, but yes, given the time management that we teach, it could have again made it a little difficult to dodge. Then comes reading number of questions. We heard that, and that was also true for at least two of the tests that I was able to access for India and US. The reading questions were up to question number 16. Usually we see that they end on 14 or maximum 15. So a couple of more reading questions than what we usually see. Then interesting transition word questions. This was really different for me to observe. We had lengthier transition words questions. So example, there are a couple I'm going to talk about. In accordance with this premise, or maybe on the other end of the spectrum. Now, if I simplify, it basically means on the other hand or however. But again, lengthy answer choices for transition word is something that we haven't seen, and this could have made the question type a little difficult. One or two difficult questions that I also saw was in cross-text connections, where there are two texts, and this time there were a couple of questions where rather than giving a usual text, they went with poems. So yes, I know a lot of you don't like poems and they came as a cross-text connection. This could have also made the test a little unpredictable. Finally, we have been talking about grammar, that they have been increasing on punctuation questions and decreasing on some form and structure questions. This time there was a good ratio from verb agreement and verb tense questions as well. They were sort of neck to neck with the punctuation questions. Other than that, when it comes to student notes, they were similar. When it comes to main idea, function, purpose, everything was very similar. Overall, this is what the analysis for English looked like. Let's move on to math. I think all of you felt that it was moderate, it wasn't that tough, and we heard that most of the students were more confident, and we can see why. There was a good number of questions, they were repeated, and on and all of all the things that we have analyzed, there could be 10 to 16 questions that were repeated from the previous 2025 attempts. So definitely that gives you a sense of comfort because you have seen those types of questions or even the same exact questions. Then coming to the level of difficulty, module 1 was easy to moderate and module 2 was majorly moderate. Some questions were new and some were hard, so making it moderate to slightly hard. Coming to new questions from category, it only came from geometry. Rest other three categories, which was advanced math, algebra and problem solving data analysis, they were similar to what you have been seeing. So what particular questions that we could observe? So let's say there was a question about volume and surface area with a hollow cylinder. That's a little different. Then we also had a question about cube and volume. Then comes a question that we have seen after a long time, I think after more than a year or so, that was about margin of error and sample size. So if you haven't taken SAT in a good long time, this could have been a new question for you as well. Coming to usage of Desmos, so we know that a lot of questions can be solved on Desmos. We really tell our students to use Desmos heavily. So 50 to 60% of the total questions could have been solved on Desmos. The number of questions that I'm talking about have high use of regression. So you need to learn that and you need to use them. So that was all about math. It wasn't really hard. There was nothing new per se, in terms of difficulty, something that came after a while or some twisted questions. So sign up for more information and join us for a more guided prep.